Today, Beijing new destroyers sink U.S. warships in South China Sea as tensions ramp up. Beijing has unleashed a fleet of new destroyers which has the power to wipe out U.S. warships in the South China Sea. Military experts say the news proves the superpower's naval development has entered a crucial new stage amid mounting tensions in the disputed waters. The unveiling of the Type 055 and Type 052D destroyers came just days after the decommissioning of multiple outdated Type 051 destroyers. And weeks after U.S. aircraft carriers sailed through the South China Sea after Washington accused Beijing of a campaign of bullying in the region. The USS Nimitz and USS Ronald Reagan traveled with their strike groups into the sea in mid-July in a major show of strength to China. Hong Kong-based media group Talking Wenwei reported the People's Liberation Army's new destroyers were launched from the Dalian shipyard on Sunday morning. Analysts say the state-of-the-art warships are more than a match for the world's top destroyers, including the US's Zumwalt class. They will take the place of warships which have been in service for the PLA since the 1970s, reports the Global Times. China has prioritized updating its naval fleet over the past 12 months as part of £220 billion military spending program. It's reported it now boasts around 20 modern, Aegis-type destroyers, and in 4 to 5 years that number is expected to double. Its total naval fleet now stands at 777 vessels compared to the US's 490. However, it still lags behind its superpower rival when it comes to aircraft carriers with just 2 compared to the Pentagon's 20. The Sun Online has already revealed how China has reportedly been loading its warships with monster generators to power high-energy weapons. The 20-megawatt power units are required to operate lasers and railguns that will destroy long-range targets and shoot down incoming missiles. China and the U.S. navies are both developing railguns, a type of superweapon that can fire long-range projectiles at unprecedented speeds. Beijing is now planning to hold war games in the region next, which is the focus of tension with the U.S. and close to Taiwan. At the weekend, the USS Halsey DDG-97 sailed through the Taiwan Strait, marking the second U.S. transit in 2 weeks and the 9th this year. The U.S. Navy will continue to fly, sail and operate anywhere international law allows, a U.S. Navy spokesman said. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has accused China of a completely unlawful pursuit of territory in the South China Sea. He has condemned China for carrying out a campaign of bullying to control the waters. The South China Sea is considered to be potentially energy-rich and a key global shipping lane. China has long claimed an area known as the Nine-Dash Line as its own. It has been filling the region with its naval power and constructing artificial islands for military bases. Taiwan, Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam also contest China's claim over the sea. Reports of China's new launches came as one of the most senior European politicians ever to visit Taiwan warned the West must stand up to Beijing. Milos Vyštaršil, president of the Czech Senate, spoke out on a visit to Taipei after Beijing said his country would pay a heavy price for his trip. He urged the world to heed history's lesson and not appease China by sacrificing Taiwan. China sees Taiwan as its own territory and has threatened to take it by force if necessary by 2050. The PRC has the largest navy in the world, with an overall battle force of approximately 350 ships and submarines including over 130 major surface combatants. In comparison, the U.S. Navy's battle force is approximately 293 ships as of early 2020, this its latest report on China's military power. The long-running China threat theory only emphasizes the quantity of the vessels rather than their quality. This is an untenable standard to measure a country's military power. The number of Navy ships that China has may look massive, but a large proportion of them are missile boats with displacements of only hundreds tons. They cannot really be considered as large surface ships. By comparison, U.S. warships mostly have a displacement capacity of more than 5,000 tons, so the People's Liberation Army or PLA Navy's capability is actually inferior to that of the U.S. Navy in this regard. U.S. defense official Chad Sabraja on Tuesday criticized China's recent test firing of medium-range missiles in the South China Sea, citing it as a necessity to counter China. Such an act of using China's anti-aircraft carrier ballistic missile tests to hype up China's military threat in the sea region will continue as provocative U.S. actions keep happening in the region. The U.S. will keep increasing its military presence in the South China Sea, including holding more large-scale military exercises and intensifying close-up reconnaissance, especially around the Chisha and Nansha Islands. Moreover, the U.S. will also prepare to form an Asian NATO as its next step to get more countries in the region involved to hold more joint military exercises as an anti-China alliance. However, both ships and a navy need a good management. The U.S. now lacks such management capacity. The infection of COVID-19 on the aircraft carrier USS Roosevelt and the fire accidents on the Navy ship USS Bonhomme Richard in July and on amphibious assault ship USS Kearsarge all exposed serious management problems and unstable morale in the U.S. military. The root problem is a lack of organizational discipline in the military. This will seriously affect U.S. combat and logistics capability. U.S. military power cannot be underestimated anyway. But we also need to be clear that there have been certain deficiencies with its real capacity, as the U.S. military has not really made sufficient preparations against adversaries like China or Russia. It has only looked at how to beat weaker countries, or moderate military powers. In this sense, will the U.S. military show its due capabilities if it is to confront China or Russia? It is hard to tell. But from the perspective of the PLA, we should always attach great importance to the U.S. military, strategically and tactically, so that we can thoroughly study its weaknesses and find ways to win. There is no doubt that the U.S., as a country outside the region, is the biggest troublemaker in the South China Sea and other waters surrounding China. Being the so-called world policeman, the U.S. does not maintain world peace and stability but wreaks havoc. This is in line with its national interests. After all, it is the world's largest arms dealer. Nonetheless, the PLA is well prepared to carry out anti-aircraft carrier operations with multi-pronged approaches by the PLA Rocket Force, Navy and Air Force. China's DF-26 missiles can carry out precise strikes in the South China Sea with a range that can reach U.S. military base on Guam. China has also reportedly deployed YJ-12 anti-ship missiles. This demonstrates that the PLA has sufficient ways to deal with any threats from U.S. aircraft carriers off China's coast. The U.S. military should be aware that the PLA cannot be threatened and that China's core national interests cannot be challenged. The PLA has already been equipped with systemic and joint combat capabilities needed to strike U.S. aircraft carriers when necessary. Such a strike could weaken U.S. core capabilities to interfere in other countries' internal affairs. The diplomat said China and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are close neighbors that could not move. The two sides signed the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties or DOC in the South China Sea 18 years ago and are speeding up consultations on the Code of Conduct or COC in the South China Sea despite impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Luo stressed that China believes in settling the disputes of the South China Sea through negotiation and consultation. Beijing supports handling the South China Sea issue in accordance with international law, including the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Nevertheless, the issue concerns not just UNCLOS, but also territorial sovereignty, he told the audience. Its proper solution is only possible when the international law, including UNCLOS, is applied comprehensively and accurately. Luo reiterated that Beijing does not accept or recognize the so-called South China Sea arbitration in 2016. UNCLOS does not regulate issues of territorial sovereignty. He said the South China Sea is open and inclusive. The freedom of navigation has never been an issue in these waters. It is only an excuse created by those who wanted to interfere and make trouble.